wanted to try another man since I've only been with him ever. He exploded in anger and filed divorce. Have you ever felt curious about what else is out there? I certainly did. You see, I had only been with one man my entire life, and I couldn't help but wonder what it would be like to experience something different. So I decided to take a leap of faith and explore my options. Felt curious about what it would be like to be with someone else, to experience a different kind of connection. That's exactly how I felt. I had been in a long-term relationship with the same person for years, and while it was but when I finally mustered up the courage to express my desires to my partner, things took an unexpected turn. He exploded in anger, unable to understand my curiosity and need for exploration. Instead of having an open conversation, he immediately filed for divorces comfortably and familiarly. I couldn't help but wonder what else was out there. My husband, Taylor Thompson, male 31, and I, female 29, at one of the children's homes in Ohio. Well, I was volunteering to care for infants that were in the shelter. I love children, so that's why I decided to spend my day with them that day. Taylor came in and I was introduced to him as a sponsor of the children's home. He was actually doing a very nice job. I respect people who think of others and try to go an extra mile to help the ones who are in need. Taylor and I spent the day at the children's home until it was time for me to go. Mind you, I had requested an Uber ride the time I was going to the children's home since my car was away for a service. Taylor offered to give me a lift, and I couldn't refuse because I was saving money. I was grateful for his kind gesture and gentleness. He took me to my apartment and told me that we would see each other the following week. Yes, I had promised the home that I would visit them again the following weekend. I enjoyed my stay with the children. We met the following week, of which was when we exchanged numbers. Well, he asked for my number so he can call me whenever he went to the home shelter. Since then, we communicated through phone and social media, specifically on WhatsApp. I couldn't stop thinking about him from the day he asked for my number. I mean, the guy was handsome, kind, humble, funny, and very resolute. I respect men like him because they always go an extra mile to love, care, and protect the ones who cannot defend themselves. He was the voice of the voiceless. Since then, we became friends. There's a lot that we had in common. Our goals and objectives clicked, you know. The energies and personalities clicked. Sometimes I would go to the home shelter hoping to see him, but sometimes I wouldn't see him, which was a bummer to me because I had hoped that he would show up. When I would ask him why he never came to the home shelter, he told me that he was busy at work, but promised to visit the following weekend. A few months later, he asked to take me out on a date. He was so blunt and straightforward, and that added to the boxes that I was ticking about him. We went on that date, and it was truly amazing. One thing about Taylor was that he had a great sense of humor. He knew how to show his true emotions, and he would communicate with what was bothering him or made him happy. He shared everything. I even doubted that the guy actually had secrets because of the way he was open. We started dating 3 months into our friendship, and it was truly a bliss. He would spoil me even if I didn't need anything. He would just randomly tell me to wear something nice, and we would go out. I was the happiest woman on earth. I was treated like a queen, and I didn't know how it felt to be loved and treated like a queen before I met Taylor. I would say that Taylor was my first love and first everything. He taught me a lot about relationships, and I would Google some of the things that I couldn't ask him about dating and relationships. I learned a lot about it, and I was glad that I had a man who took it upon himself to help me gain more knowledge about men and relationships. I think 6 months, if not 7 to 9 months later, he proposed, and I immediately accepted his proposal. I said yes to the love of my life. 3 months later, we got married. It wasn't something big, just a few of his friends, colleagues, and our families. We had also invited a few of the staff members in the children's shelter. Taylor and I didn't stop visiting the children, and it would equal sign ways be the funniest thing I had ever done and experienced. The fact that Taylor respected the relationship rules of honesty and respect. Our relationship started changing when we were in our 3 years of marriage. I suddenly got the urge to try something new. I felt the need to explore new things and new people. Not that I was tired of Taylor and our intimate moments. The truth is, I enjoyed being intimate with my husband. I just wanted to try another man, just to see how it felt like to move from one man to another. I wanted to explore new intimate styles and positions, you know? I wanted to open up to my husband about my sudden desire and why I wanted to explore new things. I just didn't know how to, and it was somehow frustrating me because I didn't know what his reaction would be. My desire wasn't purposely supposed to hurt anyone, as I was just going to try another man and see how it was to have two men in my life. I know it was really selfish and dumb of me. But you can't ignore the desire that was rapidly growing, and I would sometimes see my husband as a person who was blocking me to get exploration. The fact that I was desiring another man while I was married was somehow scaring me, but I knew that I had to talk to my husband Taylor about it. I needed his wise words on my problem. Another thing, I didn't know any other man, sexually, besides my husband. Taylor was my first everything. I was not a dating person or whatsoever, but I did have male friends. Yes, some have tried to have a thing with me, but I realized that all they wanted was what was in between my legs. Taylor became the very first person I had fallen in love with, and gave him my all on a silver platter. For many years, I had only been in a committed relationship with one person. While I cherished the love and connection we shared, I couldn't help but wonder what it would be like to explore other relationships and experiences. It was a natural curiosity that many people can relate to. I approached the topic with my partner, hoping for understanding and open-mindedness. It all started with a simple conversation. I mustered up the courage to express my desire to try being with another man. I thought my partner would understand that we could navigate this new territory together. Unfortunately, instead of an open-minded response, I was met with anger and resentment. Unfortunately, he didn't react the way I had hoped. Instead of having a calm and rational conversation, he exploded in anger. His reaction took me by surprise, and it quickly became clear that he wasn't willing to entertain the idea of me being with someone else. My partner's reaction caught me off guard. I never expected such a strong negative response. We had always prided ourselves on open communication, but this topic seemed to strike a nerve. Over the next few days, tension grew between us. He became distant and cold, and it seemed like every conversation ended in an argument. We both knew that something had changed, and it was tearing us apart. I had tried to come into terms with my wrong and tried to apologize for how I had approached the situation. But I didn't know what to say and where to start apologizing, because what I felt the other day was what I was still feeling. I realized that my approach may not have been the best. Instead of having an open and honest conversation, I should have taken more time to understand my partner's feelings and concerns. Perhaps there were underlying issues that I had failed to address, which was why I had decided to think of another approach that he would understand. I didn't need him to do anything. I just wanted his thoughts and advice. Few days later, I waited for my husband to cool down so I could approach the topic again. I had to wait a couple of days before I angered him again. I didn't want to take things in my own hands and go outside to get what I had desired, because that would be cheating. I loved my husband, heck. I even still love him so much. We had vowed to ourselves to always be open with one another. We believed that strong communication skills were a key to a successful marriage. Oh, and not to forget loyalty, respect, and commitment. During the day as he was at work, I got the time to prepare some romantic dinner for the two of us. I wanted to soothe his heart first before dropping the same bomb that had angered him before. Later on, he came back and I was nervous. I didn't know how he was going to take my thoughts or desires again, but I hoped for the best. I prepared him water to bathe and prepared supper. I wanted everything to be perfect, you know. So when he came back from taking a bath, we had a light conversation. I knew that he had forgiven me for the first encounter when I dropped the bomb, but I had to do it again, unfortunately. So I started the conversation with the apology of how I had approached my desires situation and how much I wanted us to speak about it without arguing or fighting. The more he looked at me, showing that he was listening, the more my armpits were sweating because of the nerves. My husband was a great husband and a partner to me. I didn't doubt his love for me because it was a sure case that he loved me so much. But I felt like I was lonely, I was bored. Taylor didn't give me enough time that I needed, and even our intimate moments were good, but they lasted a short period of time. My friends who were not married looked so happy in their single life era. They slept with whoever they felt like sleeping with, or if they were desiring something different, they would go for it without any hassle like me. I didn't regret marrying Taylor. I mean, if I didn't want to get married to him, I would have rejected his proposal or asked him to wait a bit before we got married. When I agreed to be his wife, I knew what I was putting myself into, and it was a lifetime commitment. But on another thought, I felt like I had got married way too early and I was still young. I didn't give myself any chance to live, be myself, and be like my friends, living a carefree life. I didn't give myself to be young and do young people things, but I rushed to get married. Now I found myself being stuck with so many desires that my husband couldn't deliver. So I told him everything that I was feeling, from the fact that he was no longer giving me time like he used to. He was always focused at work and on the children's home shelter. Getting his full attention was something that I would only dream about, and it stayed there in my dreams. I opened up to him about my feelings and the fact that I was craving to try another man. After I had said that, his eyes changed from being clear to pure red. He looked enraged. He exploded in anger. He couldn't believe what he was hearing and accused me of betraying him. He asked if that was what I had wanted, and I agreed. To him, he thought I wanted to cheat on him on purpose, but I wouldn't call it cheating. I would call it exploring. I had expected him to be upset, but I never anticipated the level of anger he displayed. It was clear that he saw my desire to explore as a threat to our relationship. He got pretty angry to the point that I felt my cheek burning, only to find out that he had just slapped me. I couldn't blame him, even though a lot of people wanted me to divorce him because he had laid his hand on me. My husband thought I wanted to cheat on him, but what I wanted to do, was it considered cheating? But I don't think so. I thought it was just me wanting to explore my desires, not to cheat on my husband. We ended up having a very heated argument. I thought he was unfair because he had his fair share of changing women before we got into a relationship and eventually got married. I also wanted to feel how it was like to have another man exploring your body. Sure, I love my husband. He also loves me. Heck, we were head over heels with each other. But he was not delivering what I needed and wanted. He was always busy for me. You know, sometimes love alone is not enough. It doesn't give you what you want, but it connects the feelings between you and your partner or the person you admire. The anger escalated, and before I knew it, he moved out of the house. He told me that he can't be in the same building as me because if he was to spend another minute with me, he would do something that would land him in jail, and he can't live in jail with regrets. He valued his life so much. Not knowing that he was moving out was actually the last straw of our relationship. It was the end of our marriage. Eventually, he made the decision to file for divorce. It was a painful realization that our relationship couldn't survive this hurdle. The thought of losing him was devastating, but I also knew that I couldn't suppress my desires for the rest of my life. He had filed for divorce. I had found that out a week after he had moved out. He didn't even have a backbone to face me and tell me that he was filing for a divorce because of a little argument that we had and he was insecure. I understood his anger and insecurities, but the divorce part was the one I was failing to understand. I would ask myself, how did we get here? How did we get into the divorce part? It was a heartbreaking moment for both of us. I never intended for things to end this way. All I wanted was to have an honest conversation about my desires and see if there was a way to compromise and maintain our relationship. But sometimes, no matter how much we try to communicate and find common ground, things just don't work out. It's important to remember that everyone has their own boundaries and limits. While exploring our options can be a healthy and natural part of life, it's crucial to approach these conversations with sensitivity and respect for our partner's feelings. I didn't think about his feelings. All that was in my head was exploring my desires. I really regret how I would get sometimes. I always end up saying the wrong things at the wrong time and in the wrong place. The separation between Taylor and I was heartbreaking. I was in denial and failing to come to terms that my husband had divorced me because of my stupid desires. I wish I had dealt with my desires in a different way, or if there was a way to approach this matter to my husband in a respectful and calm way. Our shared love and commitments had been flushed down the drain just because of a small argument. I was not okay for a couple of weeks. Ever since Taylor took all of his belongings and moved out, I haven't been myself. I pushed everyone away. I was in a very depressing state, and I didn't think I would actually survive the separation. Taylor and I had shared a lot, from our love to our own future goals and desires. Now I don't know how I will go to the children's home, knowing that I might bump into Taylor. My heart has been bleeding since the breakup. I had thought a lot about my life, but somehow I managed to pull through, and I am grateful to God for that. Weeks passed, and I decided to just wake up, clean myself up, and go outside to get some fresh air. I had also decided to attend therapy sessions. As much as I had thought I had moved on from my marriage breakup, but I wasn't healed. I was not ready to move on. I would still beat myself up because of what happened to my marriage. Sometimes I would feel the urge to just pick up my phone and call Taylor, just to hear his voice and find out how he was doing. I was starting to act like a lunatic. That is why I decided to start therapy. Therapy really helped me in speaking out about my feelings and my desires. For the first time, I had talked to someone about what I was truly feeling without being judged. Though there was only one problem that even a therapist can't even solve. My heart was in so much pain, and even when I would think about Taylor and our relationship, I would find myself in tears every day to a point that I would get a headache. So I decided to just drink at least 2 or 3 glasses of wine before I sleep to numb the pain I was feeling inside. My mother had tried reaching out to me. They even tried to come by the house, but I didn't open up for them. I wanted to be alone. I was drowning in sorrows, and if I was not tired of having a pity party, I would have lost myself and my life. One day I attempted to call Taylor, but refrained myself from it. I was the one who drove him to the situation that we were in. I was the one who made him file for a divorce while our marriage was okay with no problems. But what did I do? I took my selfish problems and laid them on the table, knowing very well that they would have a bad outcome. I continued going to the children's home. At first, I had gone with the hope to not bump into Taylor, but unfortunately, it seemed like the universe was not on my side because he was there. We tried to not make things awkward, but it was really hard for me. I was hurting. I missed him. Heck, I still miss him even now. When I saw him for the first time after our divorce, I saw that I had lost a gem while I wanted to explore the stones. I lost the only person who loved me for me, not for what I was going to offer or put on the table. We had grown apart, and my desire for exploration had become a breaking point in our relationship. Looking back, I understand why my partner reacted the way he did. It's natural to feel hurt when someone you love expresses a desire to be with someone else. But it's also important to remember that we all have different needs and desires. So if you ever find yourself in a similar situation, my advice would be to approach the topic gently and be prepared for any reaction. It's okay to have desires and wants, but it's equally important to consider the impact they may have on your relationship. Remember, communication is key, and sometimes even the most difficult conversations can lead to personal growth and understanding. Perhaps if we had discussed our feelings earlier, we could have found a compromise or a way to address my curiosity without jeopardizing our marriage. But sometimes even the strongest relationships can't withstand the weight of unfulfilled desires. It's a painful lesson to learn, but it's also an opportunity for growth and self-discovery. As I reflect on this experience, I've come to realize that communication is key in any relationship. It's important to be open and honest about our desires and needs, even if they might be difficult for our partners to understand at first. And it's equally important for our partners to listen and try to empathize with our feelings. Looking back, I realized that communication played a significant role in the breakdown of our marriage. Instead of discussing our feelings openly and honestly, we let our emotions take over and push us further apart. I learned the importance of open communication and understanding in a relationship. It's essential to be able to express your desires and concerns without fear of judgment or anger. Exploring new experiences shouldn't have to mean the end of a relationship. It should be an opportunity for growth and understanding. Unfortunately, in my case, it led to the end of my marriage. But I believe that by sharing my story, others can learn from my mistakes and approach these conversations with empathy and compassion. So here I am now, starting a new chapter in my life. It's not easy, but I believe that sometimes we have to take risks and follow our hearts, even if it means facing the consequences. While my journey to explore new relationships may have led to the end of my marriage, I've also discovered a newfound sense of self. I have learned the importance of staying true to my own desires and not compromising my own happiness for the sake of others. So, if you find yourself in a similar situation, I encourage you to have open and honest conversations with your partner. Explore your desires together and seek understanding. And remember, sometimes the path to self-discovery may lead to unexpected outcomes, but it can also lead to personal growth and a stronger sense of self. I know that some, or maybe most of you, would judge me and blame me for what had happened to my marriage. I also blamed myself for too long, until I realized that I had done the right thing to communicate with my husband. Or must I say my ex-husband, instead of going outside our marriage and committing adultery? At least I was honest with him about how I was feeling and what I wanted or desired, even though it led us to an unexpected separation. What are your thoughts? Do you think I was right or wrong for choosing to be open about my desires to my husband?